Hello and welcome to the daytime edition of Modeler's Corner. Just a funny name I came up with. If you ever watched the Red Green show, you had the Handyman's Corner, so I guess this will be the Modeler's Corner, but I won't do wacky stuff like Red Green did. Today I am doing some decals. First of all, I realized the audio from my last video is not the greatest. Differences in volume, and I think it's because as I move around I get closer and further from the microphone. So today I'm trying actually a headset to see if it helps things out. I had these decals left over from making El Paso Southwestern caboose and a couple of steam locomotives. So this is a set from K4 Decals, El Paso Southwestern steam locomotive and caboose. It's got some numbers, got some letters. I don't know what number I'm going to make these cars. I might just choose 4 numbers here that are, or 3 numbers that are consecutive, and see if that makes it easier on me. But it looks like there's some here that look like they would be about the right size for that tank car on this side. I don't like the wide ones for the side of the tank car. I think it should be just normal. But I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put El Paso Southwestern, or EPSW, and then a road number right underneath it. And if I ever do put like dimensional data or anything like that, I put it over there. Or I do have some logos over here. I could put one of those logos, but I think for a work car, logo probably wouldn't be the most appropriate. Let's see. And on this one, there are some smaller ones, and originally I thought it would look cool to put lettering like this, but the reality is this is more of a flat car with sides added to it than a gondola car, so it seems more likely that they would put the letter down here on the side sill there, instead of on the part that was added later. So that's what I'm going to do, and I will show you my decal technique. A lot of people do different things. As for me, these are the products I like to use, and see if I can find them here. Just one moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I like to use microsol to make the decal film disappear. A lot of people use microset underneath their decals to kind of help put them in place. I guess just use plain old water. I just use plain old water, and I made it. When I was a kid, I built plastic model airplanes, and I wouldn't do anything to the surface. I just put the decals on, and you'd see the decal film, and after a few months or a few years, the decals would dry up and fall off. So got to do something a little bit different than what I did when I was a kid. One thing I learned the hard way is decals have to be put over a glossy finish, and of course my cars right now are dull, and I don't want to have dull or glossy cars going down my railroad. I prefer things to be dull and weathered. So that's a problem. So I need to put some gloss over the finish so the decal could adhere to it. The problem is I don't want to spray the whole car. I just want to do a little bit where the decal goes. And then after the decal's on, I can use some dull coat and just sort of make it all the glossiness disappear. Somebody told me, or I read somewhere, to use Future Floor Wax as a gloss coating, and I was hesitant for many years to try it. I thought, I don't want wax on my car or on my rolling stock. I want to use a clear paint. Well, as it turns out, the stuff, what it is basically a very thin, clear acrylic coat, not much different than the paint that I'm putting on. So it used to be called Future Floor Wax, and I bought this a few years ago. This is Pledge Floor Care. So I guess Johnson bought Future. They changed the name, Pledge Floor Care. It used to say somewhere on here, maybe it doesn't, but this is the same stuff. Sometimes it used to say, actually used to say Future on the label, but I don't see that anymore. So, but this is the same stuff as the old Future Floor Wax, and it leaves a glossy finish. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'm going to pour a little bit of it into this cup. I don't need much. This bottle I've had for a few years now. Probably lasts me quite a few years more. But I just take a paintbrush. Let me switch glasses here so I can see a little bit better. Maybe turn on a little more light. There we are. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to take the glossy finish, and I'm actually just going to paint it on with the paintbrush. It's pretty thin already, just a little bit thicker than water. You do have to, it will run and pool a little bit if you don't kind of let it, you know, dry horizontal. But that's all I need to do right there, is just a little bit of gloss right there. And I'm going to do the other side. No need to airbrush this stuff, it's so thin. I mean, you could airbrush it if I was wanting to make a whole model glossy, or if the decals, you know, the whole model was covered in decals, not just some lettering, I'd probably throw it in the airbrush. I've done it before. I don't think I need to. I don't think I thinned it at all. Just straight in the airbrush. There we go. And there's that one. I bumped one of my barrels over. Then I gotta let this dry. It's gotta dry completely. If I don't let it dry all the way, sometimes it leaves where the decal is a little milky looking, and I don't want that. So what I'm gonna do, I figure that I'll put the number over on one side. I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I don't know exactly where I'm gonna put these. So I'm just gonna, somewhere, one of these is gonna have the road name and the numbers over there, probably is what I'm gonna do. So I didn't really need to do that one. So, and some over here. And a little bit over here. That's a little bit much, but it's okay. Usually I only need to do one coat of this stuff. Occasionally I go back and do another coat, but right now it's just a matter of letting it dry. Letting it dry for a few hours, and that's why I'm doing sort of the daytime quickie video today. So that way stuff has enough time to dry by tonight. Before I put the decals on. So with the magic of video editing, take a little break, and I'll be back tonight to finish the decals. Okay, it's now been actually about 24 hours since I put the clear coat on, and it's time to put the decals on. Here's my work area. So I did want to mention a few things. I did wind up putting a second coat of gloss on the tank car, and that's mainly because I discovered a speck of lint or a paintbrush bristle or something had gotten stuck in the clear coat, so I kind of had to sand that area and then put it back on. The other thing, I was sitting here looking at the thing last night, and I see these grab irons here on the side of the tank, and I had noticed there was no place for a guy to climb up onto the tank car to get up to the top. There were no stirrups or anything in the corners. Again, this is something I put together from parts, and this bottom piece is a metal casting that's die cast. So attaching stirrups to the corners, probably not going to work too well. I'd have to glue them and they'd probably just break off right away. So, and I didn't want to drill into it to put a piece of wire into it, because every time I tried to drill into the die cast, I usually wind up breaking a bunch of drill bits and making a mess of things. So I started thinking about it, and I think where most of these parts came from was one of those roundhouse old-time tank car kits. But I think what it was is actually one of those 3-in-1 kits they used to have, where it was just a bunch of parts and you could build whatever you wanted with them. Those really cool kits that I wish were still around, but I think that's where most of the parts came from. The tank, and at least this center portion, this walkway that goes around it, and the frame probably came from somewhere else. The trucks might have come in the same kit, I don't know, but most of it came from that tank car kit. And when I look at how those tank cars were supposed to be built, they had these little ladders that stuck down here, sort of towards the center of the car. And I thought, oh, I could put little ladders like that. So I looked around in my parts bin, and I still had the little ladder pieces. Unfortunately, if I put the whole thing in, they'd stick way down here, because in the old-time tank car kit, this walkway was sort of up more towards the center of the tank. So I cut them off, and I stuck them in the holes, and I glued them, and then I thought, oh man, it's going to interfere with the trucks as they swing around tight corners, but lo and behold, they just clear. So I added the little stirrups, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now my little workers have a way to get up to the tank and injure themselves, I guess. And so here's my decal sheet. These are the ones, because I don't want the wide letters, so it'd be these ones here, the ones that I want to use. So the things that I'm going to use, so I got the decals, of course. I have somewhere, I put down some paper towels that I could rest the decals on. I don't see where I put them right now, but I will find them. So some paper towels where I can lay the soaked decals on to sort of let them soak the rest of the way. I need a small paintbrush to help push the decals around. I need a saucer full of water there to soak the decals in. A lot of people recommend using warm water to soak the decals, and I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that. But I live in southern Arizona, and water coming out of the tap is already pretty warm. So this is probably, it's probably 90 degrees sitting here right now, this water. But so this is what I'm going to use. The first step is going to be to actually cut out the decals. And this is, the manufacturer is K4 Decals. They have a lot of different sets. But the one thing I learned about them is the film, the plastic film that carries the actual decal. It covers the entire thing. So this square, this rectangle that I just cut out, there's decal film under that entire thing. So I want to cut on these as close to the letters as I possibly can to minimize the amount of film that shows around the decal. So I'm going to cut it pretty close. Now, micro scale decals, most of the ones I've seen, the film is only underneath or just around where the logos and letters and stuff are. So those you don't have to cut, so close. You can be a little generous with it because you don't have to hide all that extra. You don't have to worry about all that extra decal film. These ones are different though, but there's pluses and minuses to both ways. One is that micro scale, the decal film they use is really thin. So in larger decals, man, I usually break them in many places when I try to slide them on to my model. These ones have a little bit of a thicker decal film, and I haven't had that problem with them breaking. So there's my letters. I need to figure out what number I'm going to make it, but let's see. I was thinking of something in the thousands, or maybe the hundreds, but I do have some El Paso Southwestern boxcars, and it told you what numbers to put, kind of did, and they are numbered in the 200s. So maybe for a work car, it should be a higher number, or maybe have a 0 in front of it, like 091 might be kind of nice, or 033. So the numbers, they're not in sequential order. Up here they are, but down here. So I can just like cut out what I think is going to look nice and what size I want. So here's, maybe I'll do 051. See there, 051. Maybe the 0 will denote, like I have no idea what numbers this railroad used for their freight cars. I could probably find that someplace. It's not readily available on the internet, and it doesn't really matter that much to me, because the number of experts on this railroad sitting out there are probably few. Well, I guess the Southern Pacific people would probably know, but I mean, it's a freelance car to begin with. So if they wanna nitpick me over having a wrong number, be my guest. And at least provide me with the information so I could do it right, if that's what you want to do. So I'm cutting them out. So this car number is going to be 051, this tank car. And cutting these ones out real close. It's kind of hard one with the letters and numbers, especially if you're doing individual letters and numbers, to handle the tiny little piece of paper. I might have want to cut off part of the one, but I don't care. Weathering will blend that in. So handling that little tiny piece of paper sometimes requires tweezers to help with that, because hands are a lot bigger than what we're working with here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here and soak these things. And look at that, things suddenly shifted. Yes, I paused it to where I could rearrange things so you could see the paper towel. So what I'm going to do, kind of see some more of the stuff that I'm working on here. So I've heard of doing this 2 different ways. One is to hold it underwater for just a few seconds, pull it back out, lay it on the paper towel, wait till the thing easily slides off the paper, put it on your model. Other people say to just let it soak in here for like a minute. For these decals, I mean, there's different ways of doing this, and depending on which manufacturer you use, it's going to tell you you're going to have to modify your technique. This particular case, I've found that these ones need to soak about a minute. Otherwise, the paper doesn't slide off very easily. So I'm going to let that soak. And sometimes what I do, and letting it soak too long, not exactly the best idea, because if you let it sit in there too long, the actual decal will slide off in the water, and then you'll have this little tiny decal floating in the water, and you won't be able to get it off. And I probably should have soaked the number rather than the other letter, but that's okay, because it'll remain pliable for a little while, or loose for a little while. And this one I'm actually going to hold with a pair of tweezers, so that way I don't lose it. It's easy to lose small things. Really easy to lose small things. So this is where I usually just kind of use the paintbrush to wet the surface a little bit. Some people use microsol. I don't have any, and last time I had it, I used it all up, and then I ran out, and I never bothered to buy more, and I was lazy, so I didn't quite put enough gloss on it. We're going to see how this works, because it is wider than that decal. Well, I need to slide it over some. That's what you use this paintbrush for. Sometimes you can gently ease it over. Gently. Yeah, it's moving a little. I want to move it over to the left because that's where I'm going to use a toothpick and just kind of, there we go. It's sort of where the edge of my thing, my glossy area is. So there we go. We got the letters on. You got to be careful because the thing will still slide around on you as long as there's water there. I like to take, some people use a Q-tip. I like to just use a little scrap of paper towel just to very gently, because you don't want this thing to move on you, very gently blot excess water from around the decal. And there we are. Now let's put the number on. So that, I mean, it'll still move, but I blotted the excess water, so it's not going to move if I breathe on it. It'll move if I bump it. And believe me, that's an easy thing to do. Bump it, especially if you shake your hands like me. Trying to center this. I think it would look better if it was centered under the letters a little bit. I think that looks about right. So now this is the fun part. I need to blot the water off up around the number here. Okay. So I'm actually going to let that set up a little bit and carefully do the other side without screwing it up. Again, a little bit of water. Well, sure enough, this thing was soaking, been sitting there, and the paper had all soaked off, so now I got it stuck to my finger. That's not good. Decaling is one of those things that you think is going to be super easy, but it takes a little bit of a technique. So now it's stuck to my finger, and I don't like that. Again, this is where having a decal with a bit, with a bit of a thicker film comes in handy. Oh, I got it off. I'm gonna have to do a lot of repositioning here, but that can be done. The toothpick worked pretty well. I need more water on it. Get water underneath it, kind of floats it, and then it moves fairly easily. Of course, it's one of those things that it moves when you don't want it to move, and when you want it to move, it won't budge. I'm going to try and smooth it out because it was on my finger and got a little bit wrinkled, but that'll be taken care of. Try and get it as straight as possible. It's funny, we try to sometimes be perfectionists and get a little upset about irregularities in a little spot where our paint's not quite even, or and it bugs us. It's like that one mistake that bugs us. But if you look at the real thing, like, is that guy who painted these letters on this tank car gonna really care how smooth and even they were? Probably not. He's just gonna paint them on there. There's gonna be overspray. Might be a little bit crooked. Sometimes you might use a 6 for a 9. Or get a letter backwards or upside down. I've seen it before. I think Rio Grande, their narrow gauge engines, one time somebody painted the logo. The tender logos are supposed to face one way, and they painted like the left side logo on the right side of the tender or something, so it was slanted the wrong way. So modelers noticed that thing. Here we are with the numbers again. 51, 051. There, I did a little better job with that one. What I'm going to do is see the 1 kind of lines up with the end of the S. Same thing I did on the other side. So I think it looks all right. I'm going to take my little piece of paper towel again. Just kind of blot some of the water. I'll just look down it, sight down it. Now, the final step is to put this stuff on it. This is the micro saw. You can do without the micro set, in my opinion, or at least I have had success doing without it. But the micro saw, if you want your decals to look well, you have to use this stuff. So once the decal, the water is kind of evaporated from it, you brush this stuff on, and then you let it sit. And what it does is, I guess it shrinks the plastic or dissolves it slightly, and that helps it like stick down around all the details and rivets and everything like that. And your end result is going to be you hope you can't see the decal film anymore. So this stuff, absolutely important. There may be another brand that does the same thing. I don't know. This is the stuff that I've been using. Again, there's micro set. That's what you put on before you put the decal on. And then micro saw is what you put on after the decal's kind of on there and a little bit dry, to where it won't move around anymore. I think the first time I did decal work, I bought the micro set, and I thought it was going to cause the decal film to disappear, and it didn't. And I was really disappointed because it really didn't come out well. And then I realized that I had bought the wrong product. So there we go. Let it set up. Sometimes I do more than one application. If it doesn't look like it's completely, if I can still see some of the decal film, doesn't hurt to do this 2-3 times. So there we go. I got the lettering on the sides. I've got the got some stirrups for people to, little plastic men to climb up and do their thing on there. Really the only thing left is after the decals, after this is all dry and set up, I'm going to put some dull coat on it, and then I'm going to weather it again with my weathering wash, because I don't want it to look like there's brand new letters on a rusty old tank. I want the letters to look faded and worn as well. So because this is glossy, the finish is different, not just from decal film, but from the gloss finish, the floor polish that I put on there. If I put the weathering wash on without using a dull coat, that area is going to look different. So I'm going to dull coat it to where the entire car has the same texture. The entire car has the same texture, and then the wash will look great. And then probably use another layer of dull coat again, just to make sure things don't rub off when it gets handled or anything like that. So this one's pretty much done. I'll show you the finished product here. So magic of video editing, I'll show you in just a minute here. So after all that work, here's the end result. I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. Sprayed it with dull coat. Well, actually I don't use dull coat much anymore. I use Krylon matte finish, which I can get at my local Ace Hardware, also probably Walmart or even Michael's. So this is the tank car. Did a little weathering once I got the decals on. I think it came out quite well. And then the gondola car or slash flat car, this is the results so far. I still want to add more details to the bed, such as barrels and those pipes that I was working on. But again, I think the lettering came out pretty well. Looks nice. And it's just the finished result. Anyway, that pretty much completes this project. I do have some stuff coming in the mail. Hopefully it'll be here tomorrow because I'm going on vacation next week, so I'm hoping it gets here before I leave. Anyway, that shipment will include a few kits. I'll put them together, sit at my workbench, have a good time putting together some Craftsman kits this time. So it'll take a long time and it'll be something different than I normally work on. See you all next time.